Hi there, Mark Major here at the Action Figuratorium, and look at this fantastic new lower third. How can you not love that? Anyways, today I'm going to be looking at a Kickstarter of a new toy line coming out, and a few people have mentioned this on the tweets, on the Twitter, and I looked at it, and I thought it was interesting, but I've, just like anyone else, I've got a few comments to make on it. So that's coming up on today's Action Figuratorium. Stick with me. All right, so let's switch over to this Kickstarter. Anyways, I like to back Kickstarters, toys, and whatnot. I backed the Plunderlings. I thought they were pretty cool looking. I thought that they were especially cool because they had magnetic joints, and I'm into the Mego Bloks Mag Warriors. I did a whole little thing on them, a whole episode where I talked about them. I have a few. I think they're pretty cool. So I'm not anti-Kickstarter toys or anything like that. I like all that stuff. I kind of, it's got to scratch an itch for me to spend money because, money's got to come from somewhere, and you have to decide what you want to put your money into. And every time I go to spend money, I think, okay, this is only $20, $30, but then I think, well, what if I put that $20, $30 into something else that I like even more? And so you get to this point where you got to kind of pick and choose. And so this is a great example of us sort of looking at this project and seeing if this is something we would want to choose. So it's called Fist Action Figures, and the cat doing it, his name is Esteban Cifuentes. I think that's how you say it, but I don't know. And whatever, I'm just an idiot anyway, so who cares if I mispronounce it? Nothing really weighs heavy on these words when it comes from me. And essentially what it is it's a line of these 6 action figures here, right? And they're kind of orcs in space. There's sort of these 3 orcs here with a beret and kind of a World War II Stahlhelm. That's the name of the German helmet. And then you've got these guys who are kind of, sort of cybernetic, space age SWAT team looking guy, and kind of a Nick Fury cigar smoking dude. And you got this guy, he looks like he's one of the barbarians from, pick one of these fantasy shows out there, Game of Thrones, Vikings, the Hillmen, stuff like that. And for the most part, he's trying to get $32. This is important. $32 an action figure. And there's a little bit of saving if you get more than one. If you get like, a whole 6 or something like that, he shaves some off. And these guys have their little backstory. There's 2 factions. The orcs are called Safe, and the SWAT team is called Fist. Okay, and if we take a look at what he's offering, right, you see that the body is a kind of a cool, interchangeable, interlocking, articulated system. It looks pretty well done. Now, I don't know if this is if this is his own unique design. We're at that point now where they've designed so many action figure bodies that, could you even reinvent it at this point? We're pretty much going to be rolling on a generic, Marvel Legends Buck style for a long time at this point. We've kind of peaked out. Here's an interesting picture that he's included. This is a size comparison to see what his figures are in gray, what they look like against these other guys. I think these might be G.I. Joe Classifieds. I don't really know because I'm not a G.I. Joe Classifieds guy. But what was funny was that until I saw the little thing saying size comparison, I thought that these might have all been his. Like, here's some unpainted and here's some painted, just at a first glance, right? And what's interesting is I couldn't really tell the difference between the toy lines. Everybody just looks like they're a space marine. Everyone's got like the full sort of modern warfare gear that they're wearing, you know, like the armor vests and, you know, the straps and ammo pouches and stuff like that. It looks very sort of modern, you know, anything from Desert Storm onward. And there's a couple of guys. They, of course, come with weapons. He's got shots of each one of the characters that he's doing. And there's some weapon sets for $12. There's an exclusive if he hits a certain amount of number. It's another kind of space cop guy. Or this dude who, I don't know, kind of like a William Dafoe with a bad hairpiece looking dude. I shouldn't say that. It's the more unique and individual you can make a character, I think, toys go, I think, is best. Here's another orc guy. He's, of course, got the laser eye, that sort of thing. And so immediately upon looking at these, the first thing that me and a couple of the cats on Twitter sort of decided upon was that the bodies of these guys are super generic at this point in time. There's just nothing unique about the modern military guy. It's kind of been done. It's kind of out there. For every Coke, there's a Pepsi. We have G.I. Joe in 6-inch now, and there's this other line, if you're not familiar with them, you should check them out. It's called the Valorverse. It's essentially similar. It's the sort of, if you want to get like modern military guys and you don't want to buy the Hasbro G.I. Joe guys, you get the Valorverse guys. And they look cool and they look great, and he's really, Bobby Val, the guy who does them, he's really into maintaining the integrity of, you know, the guns and stuff. He doesn't make fantasy guns. He makes guns based off real guns. He makes kits and armor and things that look very sort of ultra realistic in terms of what's available now. And so I think that that's kind of sort of, you know, plus there's always somebody who will order something different. So even if like 90% of the people love G.I. Joe Hasbro, there's always 10% of the people that will pick something just to be contrarian. And so there's always a business model in being an alternative to that. And I think he is the alternative to the modern warfare looking G.I. Joe guys with the Valorverse. And so at this point, the question is, do we need more of these guys? Is there even more of this stuff? And when it comes down to it, really the thing that makes these guys unique is just the head sculpts. He's given them some orc head sculpts, which is cool. They look great. And his artwork, by the way, of these guys, I think is great. I think it's got that modern cartoon look, post-90s. I think it looks really good. These guys are pretty cliche, but that's what it's all about, you know, is taking archetypes and, you know, hitting all those bases with them. But my thoughts on this, and, you know, feel free to post your own comments if you agree or disagree with this. Always like to hear what people have to say. But my thoughts on this is that he's looking for $80,000. He's hit $14,000, although he's still got like over 30 days to go. I haven't really seen this move, but the fact that he got $14,000 is pretty good. That tells you that there's enough interest in something here to warrant 72 people putting money down. But I think that if this guy doesn't hit his goal, which I'm going to predict, and again, I've been wrong. I'm wrong 66% of the time. I like 2 out of every 3 predictions I make go wrong. So I'm going to predict that this guy's probably not going to make it. Based on this, I think when things get onto Kickstarter, I think if it's a great idea, I think it just funds like within a few days of people hearing about it. And if you have to fight your way up there and it's a struggle, then it's probably not the greatest product ever, right? So there's something here. People are willing to spend money, but doesn't seem to be enough interest to get everybody to spend money in. So here's what I'm going to recommend that, is it Esteban? Yeah, that I think Esteban should do, because this guy's clearly has talent. He clearly knows what he's doing. He's clearly worthy of being a toy maker. And it looks like maybe he has access, it seems like what I read here is he has access to a factory that's not in China, and I think that is pretty fucking cool, right? The No China factory. But I think really what this guy should be doing at this point, if he wants to sort of make this keep going forward, If it fails, I think he should relaunch it, but I think he should ditch the bodies and just sell the head sculpts. And since he was trying to get $32 a figure, right? We'll just round down to $30 for the sake of rolling off the tongue. I think if this guy did a head pack, right? 6 head sculpts, 3 orcs, 3 of these guys, right? $30. I think he could, and was only asking for like $40,000, right? I think he could maybe hit that if he then also went out and solicited some of the places like Big Bad Toy Store, Dorkside Toys, Entertainment Earth, all those kind of places that you expect to find things like this that are kind of better than, you know, homemade, something like I made. By the way, check out my homemade Madman 1/6 scale figure. It's terrible, but wait till version 2. So I definitely think this guy's a real toy maker, and I think he can get his product on the shelves of these e-tailers. There's no doubt that he's got talent, but I don't think this is what people are looking for. I think people would throw down $30 for 6 heads. That's $5 a head. And if you don't think that that's a possibility, Mythic Legions did exactly that. It was $30 for a head pack, and I think it was 5 heads. It might have been 6. It worked out to either $5 or $6 a head, something like that. Definitely one of the best deals in one of their pre-orders they ever did. That's what this guy needs to do. He needs to sell the heads only, because that's the only thing that's interesting. The bodies, which of course are just, you know, the same body reused with a slightly different paint scheme, because that's how you make toys. You reuse the same bucks, the same body over and over again. Creatively, always got to be creative with it. You can't just like put another head on a guy and say, oh, it's different. Skip the bodies at this point because nobody wants them, and just go for the heads and go for 30 grand. Also, change a little bit of the backstory, whatever it is. There's no way that these orcs in space are called Safe. That's a stupid name for them. They should be called Fist, right? Because that's an orc thing, Fist, right? And then the guys who look like they're protectors of the peace, sort of peacekeepers, SWAT team guys, police guys, Interpol guys, they should be the safe guys. They should be totally safe. That should be them. You need to swap them around and just sell the heads. Okay, so that's my take on this Kickstarter. And I'm going to go on to one more Kickstarter because this thing dropped today, and there's no point in making a separate video for it. It's just going to be 2 videos that cover both of these. This is actually from somebody called Oddfrog Entertainment, who I've never heard of before, but I checked out their page, and I checked out their website, and it looks kind of like what they're doing is they're offering up the sort of the thing that Marvel was trying to sell us, was like a 1970 Dodge Charger for 1/12 scale, which everybody who got mad at me in my comments when I said, I don't think this is worth $350, got mad at me saying like, no, it is. These toys are expensive. You need to pay attention more and you're dumb. Probably true. Probably all true. But this thing is essentially that, and I gotta say, it looks a little cooler than the one that HasLab was putting out. It seems to have a little bit more detail. It's a bit more unique, and I think that it is not a lot of details on this. I think that it's a cool idea because HasLab has kind of spent all this money marketing the idea of a cool muscle car, which, you know, I said works for anybody. You know, I mean, Mad Max, the Road Warrior, he had like a 70s Ford Falcon. It's not that they were like a 73 or something I think they drove in the movies. Not that different than this Dodge 70s car, right? Muscle car, black car with a blower on the front. So I think that there's a market for that, and I think there's a market for people looking for cool cars with their action figures. I just think that this thing, which they want, in case I hadn't told you yet, They want $185 for this thing. Okay, and I think that there's probably some add-ons that give you some cool stuff with it. Should we play the video? I guess we could play the video. Do we get sound with this? That's the question. I just set up a new version of OBS and I do not have my desktop audio on, so we're just gonna let it play.
Introducing the Bandito 2.0, designed by the 112th Street Chop Shop and Oddfrog Entertainment. In anticipation of our November Kickstarter, we wanted to take a moment to talk about some of the many details of our new 1/12 scale Bandito muscle car. The Bandito has been meticulously designed inside and out. Details include dials in the dash, a steering wheel, shifter, gas, brake, and clutch pedal. The Bandito will have soft tires and wheels that turn.
Okay, so everyone always keeps mentioning wheels that turn. HasLab mentioned it, they mention it. Is it that hard to put a plastic or put a metal axle with a couple of pieces of plastic wheels on the end? Why is this like the hardest technology for these guys to figure out?
It's designed to appeal to customizers, with a variety of parts that can be added and altered. During the course of our Kickstarter, we will offer stretch goals to help to add to these customizable features. The more successful the Kickstarter, the more features we can add. The Bandito is scaled to 1/12 and will fit 6 to 6.5 inch action figures. A section of the back seat can be removed to accommodate larger figures.
All right, so that's pretty cool. That's actually pretty important. The idea that you can get access to the inside of the car to be able to put things and figures and stuff inside of it. Also, take the seats out and things like that, move it around so you can jam the Hulk in there or whatever you need to do. That's a good idea. I feel like HasLab should have maybe even hired these guys to design their car for them. Let's watch a little bit more.
The 112th Street Chop Shop crew has built in some very special features for our initial offering. Let's take a look under the hood. The engine is designed...
Now, do they call it the Bandito to give it a kind of like a Hispanic thing? Is this kind of like they're really trying to say this is the Robbie Reyes, Hell Charger?
To be removed for future customization. The ability to swap out engines enables customizers the option of switching out the hood. Since the Bandito's head and tail lights light up, we hid the battery case under the engine. The car battery doubles as an on and off button for the head and tail lights.
Okay, there's some cool engineering going on here.
The Bandito was designed for toy photography. It has an ABS plastic body with a matte black finish, providing endless possibilities for custom paint jobs. So, how will you, Bandito?
All right, that is...
Follow us at Oddfrog Entertainment.
All right, so that's pretty cool looking for a car. They have thought of a lot of things that the competition has not, and also $350 for the Marvel Legends and $185 for this. I gotta say though that we're at that point where $185 for this thing is still way too much. Now it might be that this is $185 because these guys are amateur toy makers. They don't have access to the types of production that Hasbro and Mattel have. Remember, those guys sell a lot of plastic. They make a lot of things overseas in China. If you think that they can't get it cheap, if you think like, oh yeah, their arms back here in the Chinese factories, you're wrong. You're totally wrong. If you think like Hasbro's like, oh, there's nothing we can do, the Chinese factory has this, they probably paid the Chinese factories to be built in the first place so that they could do all their caustic polluting over in China, they probably own a part of the factories at this point, right? They sell more plastic than anybody on the planet and have been, not for a few years, but forever, okay? And if you think that they can't get their toys made cheap, you're crazy. But these guys, on the other hand, are different. They've got to pick up the phone, they've got to make all sorts of arrangements and contacts, and they have to go through all sorts of things where they probably have to meet these people and have dinner and all that stuff like that. They have to go through all that process, that relationship building process, to where they can get these things made. So they're not going to get the great deal that Mattel or Hasbro is going to get. And yet these guys are coming in at $185, which means that the Hasbro Robbie Reyes Hell Charger is probably a $99 car at retail, to be honest with you. For what it costs, probably 99 bucks. And I'm going to follow that up with a little something. I picked this up at my Goodwill. It was new in the back package, meaning it would have been at Target, didn't sell, got cleared, and goes to a jobber. Jobber finds place to put all these toys, ends up at thrift stores, ends up at flea markets, ends up at Goodwill, right? And so it's a Batmobile. Now it's 1/18 scale. It's very important that I note this, because to make it slightly bigger, cost goes up. The mold has to be bigger, the amount of plastic has to be bigger, but it's always not that much bigger. It's not a billion times bigger, right? So here's the car I picked up, and as you can see, right, it doesn't look that far off from any of these other cars. Doors open on it, right? It actually has working lights and sounds. It's got revving, it's got all sorts of... It's got lights in the back, it's got lights in the front, it's got tons of sounds, it cycles through, it's got light up flames, blue flames, some of them light up red. The inside of it is detailed. There is, I don't know how to show you guys the inside of it. This thing needs to settle down. Jesus. Anyways, these things are made by Playmates, and it came with a 4-inch figure. Came with the driver, it came with the Batman, and it comes with instructions, and came in a cardboard package and everything. These guys, I'm not stealing your car. These guys are 30 bucks. This is $30. Now the plastic is not awesome. This is not amazing stuff. This looks kind of cheap. It looks kind of like it, after a while, it dries out and shrinks and does all that kind of stuff. It's made with cheap plastic. It's made for kids to play and smash and drive around. They're only going to play with it a few years and they're going to throw it in the garbage, right? They didn't make this thing to like live forever. This is meant to be trashed, so they didn't put the most into it, right? But 1/18 scale, fits a 4-inch dude, comes with a dude, at retail, $30, and that includes it's a Batman, so it's licensed. It's based on the Batman movie, The Batman, that's out. So if these cats, and this isn't, you know, Playmates is like a major brand, but they're not like the biggest brand out there. They're just another brand. If these guys can get these at retail for 30 bucks, right, I'm pretty sure they could have gotten the Robbie Reyes at retail for $99 as a Marvel Legends with the Marvel Legends brand on it, and include all that flame gack and shit that they put on it, which, you know, honestly, big fucking deal. So another thing I want to look at real quick before I let everybody go. I know that we've chalked up a lot of time and I haven't really said anything. is that there is another figure line that just launched, but it's not Kickstarter. It came out on Big Bad Toy Store. It's part of the Big Bad Toy Store house brand that they do with these this other company that I think makes these kind of cool Krampus-looking figures, and it's this Operation Monster Force. My little picture-in-picture is covering the title of it. This is a graphic that I posted to my Twitter account, and which is kind of fun. If you have Twitter, you should check out Act Figatorium on there. I'm always posting a lot of cool trash that people seem to love to ignore. And I looked at these guys, these action figures that came out, and I said, wow, this looks like somebody who sat down and they just went ape coming up with a cool design for figures. They sat there and they said, let's make something that looks cool. All about looking like a cool design. And these guys do look cool. They look really cool. And I really love the look of them. But I'm a little confused by the marketing and the storyline and who they are and what they do, and it's confusing to me. And I don't want to say it's dumb, because most of the time I'm dumb, okay? I'm usually the stupid person here who has to ask dumb questions. But the thing that I asked people in this case was, okay, how does this fit in with anything? You've got this guy up here who is clearly Dracula, right? Then you've got this guy who's like the mummy, because he's an Egyptian guy and he's kind of in all white. And then you've just got this pack of dudes over here that you know, they just look like acid rain guys scaled up to 1/12, which is kind of cool. But it gets into that whole like G.I. Joe Valaverse, like, do we need just more modern warfare action figures who have generic, you know, almost futuristic looking SWAT helmets is kind of what it is. I'm talking about like the guy down front with the red eyes and whatnot. Now the guys in the back look like some kind of something between World War I and World War II. One guy, of course, has the Stahlhelm, that's the German helmet. Another guy with the single sort of piece in the middle there, that's kind of like a French helmet. And then the other guy is kind of a British helmet in a way, not quite the full lip around it, but pretty close. And of course, gas masks is a real World War I thing, but they also had them in World War II. They carried gas masks. There was all sorts of, you know, crazy warfare that they went through. And of course, they've got the very sort of, you know, the red and black, the sort of like a fascist trooper kind of look to them, the sort of, you know, military, fascistic military look. I don't know exactly how to properly describe it, but they look kind of like a little bit of World War I steampunk, a little maybe even World War II-ish kind of guy. And I just don't understand how they fit in with Dracula and the Mummy, you know. And then the other guy that the arrow's covering, he's Van Helsing. And I just don't understand this. I mean, it's not that they don't look cool. It's not that I wouldn't enjoy these guys. And I guess that's the thing, is just make shit that looks cool that people enjoy. But, you know, a big part of these lines, the way that they end up selling and working, is they make myths, right? They make characters that you can get behind and believe in. You know, I never really cared for like the, you know, things like Optimus Prime, because I just thought he was a stock generic character. But everybody seems to love Optimus Prime, and they love buying the Optimus Prime action figure, which is just a semi-truck. It's one of my least favorites. I never was involved in any of that stuff, but I did buy Transformers when I was a kid. In fact, I bought all 6 of the Constructicons just so I could make that Devastator guy, right? And in fact, actually my favorite character from the Transformers was actually Soundwave, because it was the one guy who, his voice was a vocoder that they used for him. Also the fact that he was a tape cassette. And so the mythos of these toy lines has a big thing to do with who buys the toys. Like I don't really care about Optimus Prime, but I would definitely spend money on a Soundwave because I think Soundwave was cool. And the reason I think Soundwave is cool is from watching the show. If I'd never seen the show and I was just looking at the toys and they were just pieces of plastic, I wouldn't buy any of them. I wouldn't have bought a single one. It was the show that made me want to buy them. So with this, without there being a show or without me figuring out the show, I don't really know that I want to buy this or not. It seems, you know, it just seems like these guys are making toys for the sake of making toys, you know. Don't want to ruin it for everybody who wants to get these and you know, call them trash, because they're not trash. They look pretty cool, and they're probably for, you know, they're probably okay as far as the pricing goes. So that's sort of it for my take on the Kickstarter of the fist action figures. Of course, I also threw in a little bit about that, because I can't stop talking about the Engine of Vengeance. It just keeps going and going and going. If you haven't already, you should also check out my my Instagram account for the Action Figuratorium. Let's see if we can get, yeah, look at that, people. We've got lower thirds, and they get an ooh la la. So check out Action Figuratorium on the Instagrams. A lot of cool pics, including this Bratz car that's been sitting around for years. Apparently Bratz cars are cool now, and I'm a Bratz car owner. I also have a lorry car. I've got a bunch of Barbie cars. Actually, I've got tubs full of vehicles that are piled up. At some point they're going to get popular, and I'm going to go, oh, I got one, and I'm going to dig it out, and it's going to be some Imaginext hunk of shit. That's all for this episode. I will, lower thirds are awesome. I will catch everybody on the next one. Ciao.